Hey friends, wanted to share a little bit more to the message from yesterday and the series that we're in. I think it's just going to be a great series talking about the character of God, because everything really has to start there, right? Everything centers around our view of God. Our view of God informs everything else in our lives. And so we talked through Exodus 34 of the first two things, that he's compassionate and he's gracious. If we don't understand that, then what we really do is we take the wrath of God and we get that kind of out of whack without understanding also the compassion and the grace of God. And by the way, for those of you who are excited about learning about the wrath of God, we will get to that in this series, because he also says that sin does not go unpunished. So we'll talk through that, and we'll talk about how those things are not in conflict with each other, that he's both of these things. But for yesterday, don't get ahead of yourselves. Yesterday, we talked about compassion and grace, and really how a false view of God is going to lead us down a really bad path, right? If our God is not the God, if our God is ourselves, then of course we can't live into the wholeness that he wants for us, the abundant life that he wants for us. And even if we have chosen the right God, Yahweh, as our God, if we don't have a complete understanding of who he is, then what's going to happen is we're going to be led into false thinking, which is going to lead to false perceptions and emotions and actions and all those things. And so if you think God is distant, then you're not really going to have close relationships. If he's preeminent in our lives and he's distant, then we're not going to be able to really lean in. Or if you see him as angry, then you're not going to be able really to come to him, and you're going to be frustrated, or you're going to withdraw, and all those things. So our view of God is so important. He's first and foremost compassionate and gracious. And so the story we looked at of Hosea 3, check that out. That chapter is only like 5 verses. And I just love how the picture is painted of Hosea going after his wife, who is with another man. In fact, sounds like loves another man and is in the arms of another man. And God says, go show your love to your wife once again, because that's what God has done. As we give ourselves to different idols, he tracks us down. He shows us his love once again. And in fact, Hosea ends up buying his wife back. And just like God has bought us back with everything that he owns, he said, that's mine. He's mine. She's mine. I want her back. I want him back. And so he gives everything so that we can be back in right relationship with him. And so it's an amazing compassion. It's an amazing grace. Grace is God doing for us anything we couldn't do on our own. We certainly couldn't make relationship right with him. So he sends his son, Jesus. He gives everything so that we can be made right with him. So how do you apply this message? Well, I think we all come in with some false perceptions of who God is. I would love for us to make it a practice to write those things down, and then start to look at, what does the truth of God's word say? Who really is God? And then start to meditate on those things. Because what's happened is, if we're not embracing truth fully, which truth is that which it corresponds to reality. All right. So if we are living in a false reality because we have a false perception of who God is, we want that false reality to be replaced with truth, with actual reality. Okay. So it's this process of us acknowledging what is there. What are these false perceptions? Do I feel shame? Do I feel like I can't come to him? Do I feel like I have to duck my head? Do I feel like he's always making notes about my progress? And do I have to embrace a legalism or a performance? Or do I see him as angry or distant or not relational? All those things. Acknowledge those things as false perceptions, false realities, and start to lean on some truths of God's word. And I'd encourage you to go ahead and memorize some scriptures of God's word so that they can be embedded into you, and so that you can now more fully embrace what actually is true. So I think that's the action step. Acknowledge, maybe even write down what these false perceptions are, and begin the process of replacing that with truth. And again, if you can memorize some of these scriptures that show the actual character of God that's in contrast to our false perceptions, then that's going to begin to change some of our natural thought processes as well. So thank you, church. Love you. Hope you guys have a great day. Bye.